I saw there was an auction sale at Detroit Lakes, and the car, there was a 1930 Cadillac B16 convertible coupe in there. And it used to belong to Larry Donaldson, the Donaldson department store. And I thought to myself, phew, can't buy that for $80. But I said, well, I'm going to go up to $1,000. Who was it that bid against me? One of the guys in the club. I went up to 1,200 and he went up. I went up to 1,100 and he went up to 12 and I went up to 12. So Louis Seacon, who used to be at the club, he would come back to me and says, "Hey John, he'll sell that car for $200 profit." I thought about that. Okay, I went over there and I paid him $1,400 for it. And I was happy, and so was he.
And you still have the car today?
Yeah. Anyway, that car has more accessories. I've seen quite a few, well, not quite a few. I've seen 5 or 6 1930 Cadillac 16-cylinder convertible coupes. I've never seen one with as many accessories as this. That's the car on the cover of the book. But it was lucky I got it home because the tires were rags, you might say. And of course, it was running on half of an engine all the way home, and I didn't realize that either because it was still smooth. It didn't have a power. But Elmer Franzen and me got together, and we decided he had a 16 Cadillac too, and everybody that had a 16 Cadillac were out of tires because it was an oddball size. It was 750 by 16. So one day I was out in Pennsylvania and I stopped by the Denman Rubber Company, talked with Mr. Weber, who was the president at the time. I told him that he was looking for tires. He said, "We can make them for you if you will pay for the dye, you know." So Elmer and I talked over. He said, "Yeah, we sure would do that." And he said, "If you get orders for tires, you know who they are, and we'll ship them out for you too." So I think we sold. We must have sold tires to 100 V16 Cadillacs. That was the only source of tires. And then also Duesenberg used a 700-inch tire instead of a 750. So we changed the die on put the same tire but used 700. And it made a lot of Duesenberg people happy too because they were out of tires as well. So a side note on that, when I left that Denman factory, I was driving along the road and I happened to see looks like they were boiling sap, maple syrup. Stopped over there, talked to them about it. Said, "You sell it? You sell this stuff?" "Yeah, we'd like to sell it. We need to make a lot of it. We sell it." "Well, what do you get for it? How much do you get for it?" He said, $5 a gallon. And that's pure maple syrup too. So at that time, for Christmas time, I'd buy some of my friends. You know, that time I'd give them a gallon of maple syrup. Sometimes I give them a turkey, sometimes a little pig or something for Christmas. And they all got maple syrup that year. But the guy said, I said, "I can't take it along with me." "Well," he said, "it's not ready yet either." But he said, "Where do you live?" I said, "In Minnesota." Well, he said, "I go to North Dakota hunting in the fall. I can bring it up there." I said, "Great." I give him my name. No money, just give him my name. My gosh, later in the fall, here he come with a whole pickup load of maple syrup. And he didn't know whether I was going to take it or not. I think, but maybe he had outlets for it anyway. But that was a sidelight of the tire business. So anyway, I got another 16-cylinder Cadillac in 1930. I saw it in Minneapolis paper. It was advertised down at Nevada, Iowa. A big four-door sedan, a 7-passenger touring sedan. It wasn't a limousine, a straight sedan with a long wheelbase. So my friend flew my wife and I down there and looked at the car. Well, the front fenders were dented a little bit, and a couple chrome horns were broke off, and it was needed kind of an easy going over. And I bought that car, and we drove that home. And we went back. It only had 40,000 actual miles on it. And he said the only miles that he put on it were that in the wintertime, his wife and him would go to New Orleans for the winter, come back in the spring. It's 1,000 miles each way, and they did it for 20 years. That's how we got 40,000 miles. And I still have the car. It's really a beauty. It's standing in my shed alongside of this one, and it was surprising that the people that come in and look at all the cars, that's my favorite, that big sedan. And a lot of people like that. They'll point to that before they'll point to this convertible. But that's up to them. But anyway, this guy in Nevada, Iowa, was a wealthy farmer. And the dealer in Ames, which is pretty close there, the dealer in Ames had this car on hand for 2 years. He got it in fall of 29, and it was 31 before he could find anybody there. And he kind of talked this farmer into it. Well, they argued and discussed it, and finally got down to business. And the farmer said, "I'll tell you what, I got some bank stock in the bank here at Ames. If you'll take that in on the trade," he said, "I'll make a deal." Okay, we'll do that. So they figured it out, and the farmer had to pay him $25 to move. And he took the car home, and the guy took the stock and $25. About 2 months later, the bank went broke. So he just got out of that at the right time. Yeah. One of the most important cars I bought, I think, or one of the very important cars I bought, we were down to New Orleans, and we were looking around. I went to an old car meeting that night. And the guy, I said, "I'm looking for a nice, unusual, big old car." And somebody said, "Well, there's one over in St. Louis. It's an old Packard." And he said, "I don't know what, it looks like a very much junky, but maybe you could buy it cheap enough." The next day we went over and looked at it. And they had taken it used to be a touring car with side curtains, but they put roll-up windows in it, and a California top on it, which was rotted out, and the windows didn't work. And they'd cut the tires, the wheels off, put truck rims on it so they could drive it for a while, and it was in bad shape. But I bought it for $600. I was told it was Will Rogers' old car. But later on, I went to Oklahoma to Will Rogers Museum. I was talking to the curator there. I said, told him what I was concerned about, and he said, "Well, the lady in there was real nice." She said, "Well, I was living when Will Rogers was living, and I don't remember him ever having a Packard car. He didn't ever want to be seen with a car, just with a horse. He wanted to be seen with a horse." But she dug around a little bit. She did find a picture of a part of the car. It was with him and somebody else standing there. And I think that was maybe about a 30 or 32 Cadillac. like a convertible. He said, that's the only picture we have of him with a car. Well, anyway, how am I going to get this car back to Bruton? It was a junk. I wasn't about to have it hauled up there. So I looked in the paper again, found a 40 Buick 4-door convertible for sale. $600. And so I drove it and the transmission was shot. So I bought it anyway. And we were flying our little airplane at that time, so we flew home, went out to the junkyard and got a transmission from the old Buick. Flew back down there with a tow bar and a couple of friends. And we got the Buick up on a hoist to change the transmission, and it worked perfect. And so then we went out to put the tow bar on that old Packard, hooked it up behind the Buick, and friends of mine drove it home back to Butte. I don't think either him or his wife had ever been more than 100 miles from home in their life. And they started out in New Orleans. So I told them, come on down, we'll look around New Orleans and enjoy ourselves and so forth. They enjoyed it, but he said that the car was so hard to steer because that Packard wanted to push the Buick around all the time. He said, I had to stare, my eyeballs got sore. But anyway, that was not the Will Rogers Packard. Never did find out who it was. But a guy come along one day. It was a banker here.
Andy Darling.
Andy Darling come out and said, John, I'd like to buy that car. And I said, that's fine, I'll sell it, because I couldn't get it done. It needed windshield stanchions and all the hardware that was originally on that car. And I said, I think I'll just sell it. And he gave me a fantastic price for it, which was way more than I thought it was. And he took it, and he was not able to get it restored either. But he found somebody in Chicago that had a Packard with the identical body. You see, they'd make bodies, and they'd probably use them on for 30, 31, 32, maybe 33, the same body style. And the guy in Chicago had one with the same body. So he bought it from Andy. And then he could take all his things off that had to be reproduced. And he did it. He ended up with a beautiful car worth $1 million. I wasn't smart enough to do that. But it was a remarkable car. And it was on one of the tours. I don't remember which one. I saw it there. Gorgeous. Anyway, a lot of funny things happened, you know. My grandfather had the first car in Bruton. It was a 1903 Knox, one-cylinder car, 8 horsepower. When I got interested in this New London to New Brighton run, I thought, I just have to have a car like he had. And I searched for maybe 4 years, joined the Knox Club. One day, Jack Hess, the president of the club, called me and said, John, there's one out in Denver, Colorado that's going to be for sale, but it isn't advertised yet. He said, I hooked up my trailer and out we went. I put her in the box and took her home, you know. Restored it after we got it home. And we've used that 13 times on the New London to New Brighton run, including this last year. Not that we haven't had a few troubles. In fact, we have. It's a pretty old car, you know, to be racing down the road at 18 miles an hour. Huh?
He's an old driver.
The car's been that old before. Well, I've never been that old before. So, that's the way it goes. A lot of fun things.